Thousands of years ago, in the ancient world, knowledge was not divided into separate boxes of science, spirituality, or philosophy the way we see today. It was one seamless understanding of reality, and at the heart of that wisdom stands a figure known as Hermes Trismegistus. Some call him a sage, some a prophet. Others see him as a mythical blend of the Egyptian god Thoth and the Greek god Hermes. Regardless of how history paints him, the teachings attributed to him became known as Hermetic philosophy, a body of knowledge that has influenced thinkers, mystics, and even scientists across centuries. The fascinating part is that these principles are not limited to any one religion, culture, or civilization. They are called universal laws because they speak to the very fabric of existence itself. Imagine if the universe is a grand puzzle and someone handed you 7 keys that help unlock its patterns. This is what the Hermetic Laws claim to be. They do not demand blind faith, rather, they invite observation. When you look closely at life, at nature, at the way your own thoughts ripple into reality, you begin to recognize that these principles are already at work, whether you are aware of them or not. The first of these keys is called mentalism. It tells us that everything begins in the mind, not just your personal thoughts, but a universal mind from which all creation flows. The universe is mental, meaning reality is shaped and mirrored by thought. Think for a moment about how a simple idea, invisible and intangible, can lead to entire empires being built or destroyed. A thought sparks an emotion, the emotion sparks an action, and the action shapes destiny. When you grasp that the mind is the root of reality, you start to treat your thoughts with greater respect. They are not just passing clouds, they are seeds. And like seeds, when nurtured, they grow into the experiences you live every day. This is why ancient teachers insisted on mental discipline, on training the mind to align with clarity and purpose. Hermetic philosophy whispers a daring suggestion: if you change the quality of your thoughts, you can change the quality of your life. If the mind is the origin, then every circumstance around you is in some way a reflection of what is happening within. This is not about blaming yourself for everything that goes wrong, but about recognizing the power you hold in steering your inner world. The great masters believed that once you truly accept mentalism, you begin to see the hidden thread connecting all things. Suddenly, the chaos of life doesn't feel as random, and your own struggles become opportunities to practice shaping reality from the inside out. It is like learning that you are not just a passenger in this vast cosmos, but also a co-creator. And with that realization comes both responsibility and freedom, because the world you experience tomorrow is already being designed in the silence of your mind today. The all is mind long before the modern world began to question the nature of reality through science and technology. The ancient sages already whispered a truth that still challenges our understanding today. They said that everything around us, every stone, every star, every living being, even the unfolding of time itself, is born first in the realm of the mind. The first Hermetic law, the principle of mentalism, declares that the all is mind. At first this might sound abstract, but when you reflect on it, you realize how deeply it resonates with human experience. Every invention, every discovery, every building, every work of art, every relationship, and even every conflict started first as a thought. Something that had no physical weight, no visible shape, took root in someone's imagination and eventually solidified into the world we now call real. The Hermetic teachers extended this idea even further, saying that the universe itself is mental in its essence, that behind the appearance of matter lies a living consciousness that sustains and shapes it. If you pause and observe your own life, you will see evidence of this everywhere. Think about how your day changes depending on the quality of your thoughts. When you wake up anxious and restless, the entire world seems heavy. Obstacles multiply, and people appear unfriendly. Yet on a day when your mind is calm and hopeful, the same circumstances feel lighter, more manageable, and even filled with opportunity. Nothing outside truly changed in those moments. What changed was the lens of your mind. The Hermetic principle of mentalism asks us to understand this on a universal level. Just as your personal reality is filtered through thought, the greater reality is a projection of a vast universal mind. The ancients called it the All, a boundless consciousness that is both the source and the substance of creation. When you begin to live with this understanding, you start to treat your inner world with more seriousness. Thoughts are not just shadows drifting across the mind. They are seeds with the power to shape experience. A negative thought repeated often enough becomes a belief, and a belief guides your choices. Those choices sculpt your destiny. In the same way, a vision of hope, love, or purpose planted in the mind can grow into actions that transform your entire life. We often underestimate this because we live in a world that praises action and dismisses imagination as daydreaming. But every action is born from a thought, and every system of society we see around us was first imagined by someone. The house you live in, the clothes you wear, even the language you speak, once existed only as invisible ideas before they were manifested. The deeper implication of mentalism is that your mind is not isolated from the greater whole. Just as waves belong to the ocean, your thoughts belong to the universal field of consciousness. This is why collective thinking has such enormous power. When groups of people hold a shared vision, whether for peace or for destruction, reality tends to bend toward that vision. History is filled with examples where the imagination of a few individuals shifted the course of entire civilizations. From revolutions to renaissances, the mental image came first, and the physical world followed. This realization gives both responsibility and empowerment. Responsibility because careless thinking can contribute to chaos. Empowerment because conscious thinking can birth harmony, healing, and growth. Some may ask, if everything is mind, does that mean the physical world is an illusion? The Hermetic answer is subtle. The world is not unreal in the sense of being non-existent, but it is unreal in the sense of being secondary. Matter is like a shadow cast by the light of mind. The shadow feels solid, yet it owes its existence to the light. Science itself is slowly approaching this idea. Physics tells us that matter is not solid at its core but energy, vibrating fields shaped by unseen forces. The Hermeticists would nod and say, yes, and beyond energy is consciousness itself. The unseen gives birth to the seen. This principle also explains why personal transformation begins inwardly rather than outwardly. Many people try to rearrange the outer world while neglecting the patterns of their thoughts. They attempt to change relationships, careers, or environments only to find the same problems appearing again and again. Why? Because the root program in the mind has not shifted. True change happens when you recognize the creative power of thought and begin to cultivate it deliberately. To imagine with clarity, to affirm with conviction, to discipline the mind so it reflects harmony rather than chaos, these are acts of creation. You become not just a reactor to life, but a conscious co-creator of it. The ancients used to say, guard the gates of your mind, because whatever enters will shape your reality. When you allow fear, anger, and despair to dominate, you unknowingly write those scripts into your experience. But when you nourish your inner world with higher visions, gratitude, compassion, wisdom, you align yourself with the universal mind that sustains creation. The law of mentalism is not merely a theory to be studied. It is a practice to be lived. Every thought is a brushstroke on the canvas of your destiny, and every moment of awareness is an opportunity to paint a new picture. Imagine for a moment that the struggles you face are not random punishments, but invitations. They are mirrors reflecting the patterns of thought you carry. If that is true, then shifting your inner dialogue can shift the world you step into tomorrow. This is why so many spiritual traditions emphasize meditation, prayer, and visualization not as escapes from reality but as tools to engage the true source of reality. The Hermetic sages were pointing to the same truth. The universe is mental, and when you learn to master your mind, you begin to master your life. And once you see this first law in action, you cannot help but wonder how the other principles build upon it, weaving together the hidden architecture of existence, waiting for you to uncover what lies beyond this doorway of thought. As above, so below. When the ancients spoke of the mysteries of life, they often used language that sounded poetic but carried profound layers of truth. One of those timeless statements is, as above, so below, as within, so without. This is the essence of the Hermetic principle of correspondence, the second great law that builds upon the understanding that the universe is mental in nature. At its heart, it suggests that the same patterns which govern the cosmos also govern the individual, and that by observing one level of reality, we can understand another. The microcosm and the macrocosm are not separate, but reflections of each other, endlessly mirroring in a dance that reveals the unity of existence. Think of the human body for a moment. Inside you is a network of billions of cells, each living its own tiny life, breathing, eating, reproducing, dying. To the cell, the body it inhabits is vast, almost incomprehensible. Yet every action of those cells contributes to the health, growth, or decline of the larger organism you call yourself. In the same way, you as an individual are like a cell in the vast body of the universe. The forces that govern galaxies are the same forces that govern your life. The flow of energy in your body reflects the flow of rivers and tides. The rhythm of your heartbeat echoes the cycles of planets and stars. What is large is also small, and what is small is also large. This is why Hermetic sages believed that self-knowledge is the path to universal knowledge. To look inward deeply enough is to find the same patterns that shape the heavens. This principle also carries a practical wisdom. Have you noticed how your inner world colors your outer experience? A restless mind sees chaos everywhere, while a peaceful heart finds beauty in the same landscape. Correspondence tells us that this is not coincidence but law. The state of your inner being corresponds to the state of your outer life. If you cultivate harmony within, you will begin to see harmony without. If you are filled with resentment, the world will mirror back situations that feed that resentment. This is not punishment, but a reflection. The universe holds up a mirror so that you may recognize the patterns you carry and have the chance to transform them. In another sense, the law of correspondence suggests that by studying the greater patterns of the cosmos, we can understand our own lives more clearly. Just as the moon influences the tides of the ocean, unseen forces shape the ebb and flow of human emotions. Just as the seasons cycle from growth to decay to renewal, so too do the seasons of your life. There is a time to plant, a time to harvest, a time to let go, and a time to begin again. Ignoring these rhythms leads to frustration, while aligning with them brings balance. The ancients understood that the same intelligence that spins galaxies into being also orchestrates the unfolding of your own path. By learning to see the correspondence, you stop resisting life and begin to move with its flow. There is a profound humility in this realization. You are not separate from the universe, but a living expression of it. Your thoughts, emotions, and actions ripple outward into the larger field, just as the movements of the stars ripple inward into you. This means that even the smallest choices matter because they correspond to larger patterns of existence. When you choose kindness in a moment of anger, you align yourself with the harmony of creation. When you choose fear and destruction, you align with chaos. Either way, the universe responds, not by arbitrary judgment, but by law. Like a mirror, it reflects what you are being. Modern science, without intending to, often echoes this principle. The structure of an atom with its central nucleus and orbiting electrons resembles the structure of solar systems with their central stars and orbiting planets. Fractals in mathematics reveal repeating patterns at every scale, from the branching of trees to the shape of lightning bolts to the clustering of galaxies. What is above is mirrored below, and what is within reflects what is without. The Hermeticists simply gave this observation a spiritual and practical language, teaching that once you understand the pattern at one level, you can apply it to another. In your daily life, this law becomes a compass. If you find yourself surrounded by conflict, ask yourself where the conflict within you lies. If you are seeking abundance, look at whether your inner thoughts are rooted in scarcity or generosity. The outer world is not separate from you, but intimately woven into your inner state. This does not mean you can control every event around you, but it does mean that you can align yourself with patterns that invite growth, peace, and meaning. By tending to your inner garden, you create the conditions for outer blossoms. The principle of correspondence also invites you to honor the sacred connection between yourself and the larger universe. When you look at the night sky, filled with countless stars, it is easy to feel small and insignificant. But Hermetic wisdom reminds you that those stars are not separate from you. They are made of the same substance as the atoms in your body. The cosmos is not outside of you, it is within you. The intelligence that guides the galaxies is the same intelligence that beats your heart and forms your thoughts. To recognize this is to awaken to a deeper truth. You are not a stranger in the universe, but an expression of it, and every breath you take is in correspondence with the breath of creation itself. And so the simple phrase, "As above, so below," becomes more than a mystical riddle. It becomes a key to understanding the hidden architecture of life. It teaches you that the boundaries between the inner and the outer, the small and the vast, the visible and the invisible, are illusions. Everything reflects everything else. By studying the patterns around you, you can learn about yourself. By transforming yourself, you can influence the patterns around you. The mirror is always present, and it is always honest. The question is, are you willing to look into it deeply enough to see what it is showing you? And even more, are you ready to transform what you see so that the reflection changes to nothing rests? Everything moves. When you listen closely to the ancient Hermetic teachings, one of the most striking revelations is the principle of vibration. It declares that nothing rests, everything moves, and everything vibrates. At first, this may sound more like poetry than truth, but when you look at the world through the lens of modern science, you realize that this ancient wisdom anticipated discoveries made thousands of years later. Physics tells us that what appears to be solid and still is in fact a dance of atoms, a ceaseless movement of particles bound together by invisible forces. The table in front of you, the stone on the ground, the body you inhabit, all of them seem motionless, but on a deeper level, every part of them is vibrating with energy. The ancients did not have microscopes or particle accelerators, but through observation and inner vision, they grasped that life is not static, it is a river of constant motion. This principle changes the way we see reality. If everything vibrates, then nothing is truly fixed, and change becomes not only possible but inevitable. That means the emotions you feel, the thoughts you think, the situations you experience are not frozen in place. They too are vibrations, moving at different frequencies. When you feel heavy with sadness or anger, your energy is vibrating at a slower, denser frequency. When you feel joy, gratitude, or love, your energy resonates at a higher, lighter frequency. This is why being around certain people can either uplift you or drain you. Their vibrations interact with yours, amplifying or diminishing your state of being. The Hermetic sages knew this long before psychology or neuroscience, and they taught that by shifting your vibration, you could transform your experience of life. To understand vibration is to understand the hidden language of energy. Every sound you hear is a vibration carried by waves in the air. Every color you see is a vibration of light at a particular frequency. Even your own thoughts generate subtle vibrations that ripple through your body and beyond. Science has confirmed that brain waves change depending on whether you are relaxed, focused, or dreaming. These frequencies influence not only your internal state, but also how you interact with the world. The principle of vibration suggests that when you deliberately adjust the frequency of your thoughts and emotions, you align yourself with different outcomes. It is as if the universe is a vast symphony, and your vibration determines which part of the music you experience. This is why practices such as meditation, chanting, breathwork, and even music itself have been used by cultures across time. They are tools to shift vibration. A simple mantra repeated with focus can calm the restless mind and elevate your frequency. Listening to certain sounds or immersing yourself in nature's rhythms can restore harmony when your energy is scattered. The Hermeticists would say that you are not a passive receiver of vibrations, but an active participant. You can choose what to tune into, just as you choose a radio station. If you are tuned to a station of fear, you will hear only chaos and limitation. If you adjust to a station of faith and clarity, you begin to perceive possibilities you could not notice before. This principle also explains why healing often begins with subtle changes rather than drastic ones. A small shift in vibration can ripple outward into profound transformation. Imagine a tuning fork struck in resonance. When another tuning fork nearby picks up the same frequency, it begins to vibrate too, without being touched. Human beings are the same. When you elevate your own vibration, you influence the people and environments around you. This is not mystical speculation, but observable fact. A calm person can soothe an anxious room. A joyful presence can inspire hope in others. Vibration is contagious, and you are both affected by and contributing to the field around you. Even the circumstances of life can be seen through this lens. Situations of stagnation or struggle often feel like being trapped, but the principle of vibration reminds you that nothing is motionless. Energy is always shifting, and if you change your inner frequency, the outer conditions will eventually adjust. It may not happen instantly, but the law is universal. Just as water turns to steam when vibration increases with heat, your challenges can transform into opportunities when you raise your vibration with new thoughts and attitudes. This is why affirmations, visualization, and positive focus are emphasized by so many traditions. They are not empty words but energetic acts, tuning your inner state toward higher possibilities. The principle also carries a deeper spiritual implication. If all matter is vibration, then the difference between physical, mental, and spiritual states is not of kind but of frequency. The material world vibrates at slower, denser rates, making it appear solid. The mental world vibrates faster, and the spiritual world faster still, beyond ordinary perception. The Hermetic masters believed that by refining their vibration, they could access higher planes of reality, gaining insight and power unavailable at denser levels. This is why spiritual growth is often described as raising your vibration. It is not metaphorical, but literal within this framework. As you shed fear, greed, and ignorance, your energy becomes lighter, more attuned to the higher currents of life. You can test this in your own experience. Recall a time when you were consumed with anger or despair. Everything seemed heavy, opportunities felt closed, and the future looked dim. Now recall a time when you were filled with love, inspiration, or gratitude. The same world suddenly appeared full of possibilities, colors seemed brighter, and people responded to you differently. Nothing in the external environment may have changed, yet your vibration shifted the way you experienced reality. That is the law in action. The ancients were not offering abstract theories but practical wisdom. They wanted us to see that we are not powerless in the face of life's challenges. By learning to observe and guide our vibrations, we can rise above patterns of suffering and align with greater harmony. The key is awareness. Most people drift unconsciously from one vibration to another, pushed by moods, news, or external events. The Hermetic path is to become conscious of this movement and to choose deliberately. What you focus on, what you repeat to yourself, what you surround yourself with, all of these tune your vibration. And that vibration shapes not only how you feel, but also what you attract and create. To live with this awareness is to step into a new relationship with life. No longer are you a victim of random forces. You begin to recognize that the world is alive with movement, and by attuning your own energy, you can dance with it rather than be dragged by it. The universe is not a silent void, but a vast orchestra of vibrations, and every moment invites you to join the music at a higher, more harmonious note. Would you not want to discover what happens when you tune yourself to the rhythm of creation itself? The law of opposites, the ancients who spoke of the Hermetic principles, were not simply trying to dazzle people with mysterious words. They were pointing toward truths that every human being can see in their own life if they look deeply enough. One of the most striking of these truths is the principle of polarity, the law of opposites. It teaches that everything in existence has two poles, and that opposites are actually the same thing, differing only in degree. Light and darkness, hot and cold, love and hate, life and death. These are not absolute enemies, but two ends of the same spectrum. The recognition of this principle changes the way you view conflict, struggle, and even your own inner turmoil, because you begin to realize that what looks like contradiction is actually unity in disguise. Consider temperature as a simple example. What we call heat and what we call cold are not two separate realities, but variations of the same phenomenon. There is no clear line where heat ends and cold begins. They blend seamlessly into each other depending on degrees of vibration. The same is true of light and darkness, where brightness fades gradually into shadow and shadow dissolves into brightness. The Hermetic sages used these simple observations to reveal a profound truth. All opposites are connected, and understanding this connection allows you to rise above extremes and find balance. In human experience, this principle is most easily seen in emotions. Love and hate may appear to be opposites, but in reality they are deeply connected, often directed toward the same person or object. The difference between them is a matter of intensity and perspective, not of absolute separation. Indifference, not hate, is truly the absence of love. By recognizing that emotions exist on a spectrum, you gain the ability to transform them. Anger can be gradually softened into patience. Fear can be guided into courage. Despair can be lifted toward hope. You do not need to destroy one pole to reach the other. You only need to shift along the scale. This is the practical power of polarity. It shows you that transformation is always possible because nothing is fixed in opposition. everything is fluid and connected. This principle also reveals something important about the human condition. Life often feels like a struggle between contradictions, joy and sorrow, success and failure, strength and weakness. We resist one side and cling to the other, but the Hermetic wisdom teaches that both sides are necessary. Without sorrow, joy would have no meaning. Without weakness, strength would have no purpose. Without failure, success would lose its sweetness. The opposites define each other, and by trying to eliminate one, you risk losing the depth of the other. True mastery does not come from escaping polarity, but from learning to balance within it, to move gracefully between the poles without being enslaved by either. Think of the cycle of day and night. Day does not battle night, and night does not destroy day. They flow into each other, each giving meaning to the other. The same is true of life's seasons. Youth is followed by age, and age brings wisdom that youth could not see. Loss leads to renewal, endings become beginnings, and what appears as death in one form becomes life in another. To see this is to recognize the unity hidden beneath apparent conflict. The law of polarity invites you to see life not as a battlefield of opposites, but as a dance of complementary forces. Even in the spiritual path, polarity plays a vital role. Many traditions speak of light and shadow, the higher self and the lower self, virtue and vice. The tendency is to try to annihilate the shadow and cling only to the light. But the Hermetic understanding is subtler. The shadow is not your enemy, it is your teacher. By confronting it, you learn balance. By integrating it, you become whole. Just as a coin cannot exist with only one side, you cannot exist by denying half of your nature. Wholeness comes when you recognize both poles within yourself and learn to harmonize them. Modern psychology echoes this truth. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow as the parts of ourselves we suppress or deny, and he warned that, unless we make the shadow conscious, it will control us from the darkness. The Hermetic law of polarity had already pointed toward this long ago, teaching that integration, not denial, is the path to wisdom. You cannot destroy your anger by pretending it does not exist. You can only transform it by understanding its root and guiding it toward a higher expression. This principle also explains why growth often comes through struggle. The very presence of an opposite force pushes you to evolve. Resistance builds strength, loss deepens compassion, uncertainty awakens faith. Without challenge, there is no growth. What looks like an enemy may in fact be the necessary counterbalance that drives you toward maturity. Life is not punishing you when it presents opposites, it is shaping you through them. On a broader level, the law of polarity suggests that the universe itself is built upon duality. Positive and negative charges allow electricity to flow. Expansion and contraction drive the heartbeat of the cosmos. Creation and destruction weave together the fabric of time. To wish for one without the other is to misunderstand the harmony of existence. The wisdom lies not in erasing polarity, but in rising above it, learning to use it as a tool rather than being tossed helplessly between extremes. The Hermetic masters spoke of mental alchemy, the art of transmuting one state into another. Polarity is the foundation of this art. By shifting your perception, by recognizing that every negative contains the seed of its positive, you learn to transform your inner state. Discouragement can be transmuted into determination, loneliness into self-discovery, endings into beginnings. The poles do not trap you, they give you the leverage to move. The choice lies in where you place your focus and how you direct your energy. When you understand this law, life begins to feel less like a constant struggle between enemies and more like a vast spectrum of possibilities. You stop fearing the dark because you realize it is simply the other side of light. You stop resisting pain because you see that it deepens your capacity for joy. You stop clinging desperately to pleasure because you know it will naturally give way to stillness and then return again. This is not resignation, but liberation. To live with awareness of polarity is to live with balance, wisdom, and compassion, seeing unity where others see division, and finding strength not by denying opposites, but by embracing the whole. The cycles of life, the Hermetic principle of cause and effect, is one of the most practical and yet most profound laws in existence, because it directly touches the way your actions ripple through life. It declares that every cause has its effect, and every effect has its cause. Nothing happens by chance, nothing is random, and every event, no matter how small, is part of an intricate web of interrelated forces. From the moment you wake up, you are participating in this grand chain. The way you speak, the way you think, the choices you make, even the feelings you carry, all set into motion currents that will eventually manifest in some form. Understanding this law gives you power because it shows you that you are not at the mercy of the world. You are a participant in shaping it. When you consider your life through the lens of cause and effect, you begin to notice patterns that were invisible before. A kind word said to a friend may ripple out, influencing their behavior, which in turn affects another person, creating a chain of events that stretches far beyond what you can immediately see. Conversely, a careless or harsh action can set off consequences that you did not intend but are nonetheless real. This is why responsibility is central to the Hermetic teaching. You are never too small to matter, and no act is too minor to be without effect. Every thought, word, and deed carries weight, and the universe responds accordingly. This law also explains why people often feel frustrated when they try to change their lives superficially. Many attempt to alter circumstances without addressing the causes that created them. They hope that by changing their environment, their fortune, or even their relationships, they will escape the patterns that govern them. Yet unless the underlying causes are transformed, the effects will continue to reproduce themselves. True mastery comes from understanding the root, the initiating causes, and aligning them with conscious intent. When you act in harmony with the principles of cause and effect, you begin to produce results that are consistent, predictable, and beneficial. It is important to realize that this law is not punitive, it is neutral. The universe does not reward or punish in a moralistic sense. It simply reflects the natural flow of consequences. When you sow care, thoughtfulness, and effort, you reap harmony, growth, and success. When you sow negligence, anger, or dishonesty, you experience confusion, setbacks, or hardship. This clarity removes the need for blame or resentment. Life becomes a mirror, showing the inevitable results of what you put into the world. Once you recognize this, you start to take conscious responsibility for your actions and thoughts because you understand that they are the seeds from which future realities will grow. The principle of cause and effect also explains why some changes in life seem to take time. A seed planted in the soil does not instantly grow into a tree. The same applies to your actions and intentions. Some effects are immediate, while others unfold slowly, shaped by complex layers of causality. Patience becomes a crucial virtue when working with this law, because rushing or forcing outcomes disrupts natural patterns. Observing carefully, acting wisely, and allowing the process to unfold often leads to results that are more harmonious and enduring. Every effect, no matter how small, is part of a larger tapestry that may only be fully visible later. At a deeper level, this principle invites introspection and awareness. If you feel stuck or constantly faced with similar challenges, it is often the result of repeating causes. Patterns of thought, belief, or behavior that continually produce the same outcomes. By identifying these causes and consciously choosing new ones, you can alter the trajectory of your life. In this sense, the law is empowering. You are not a passive recipient of fate. You are a creator of your own destiny. Every day, every choice, every intention becomes a lever to influence the future. Hermetic teachers also emphasized the interconnectedness of all things in applying this law. The cause and effect of one person does not exist in isolation. It interacts with countless other causes and effects in the world. This is why collective behavior, social patterns, and even global events are influenced by countless individual choices. When enough people act with awareness, positive change becomes possible on a scale that seems almost magical. Conversely, collective ignorance or negligence can amplify negative outcomes. Recognizing this interconnectedness encourages responsibility not only for personal actions but for the larger environment and society in which one lives. On a spiritual level, the law of cause and effect is also the foundation of karma, though it is broader than moralistic interpretations. Karma, in the Hermetic sense, is simply the natural consequence of action. It is the understanding that energy you put into the universe, whether through thought, word, or deed, returns to you in one form or another. This return is not always immediate, not always obvious, but it is inevitable. Life is a vast web of interdependent causes and effects, and understanding this web allows you to navigate it more skillfully. When you internalize this principle, you begin to make choices with greater awareness. You realize that complaining or blaming others is futile. Instead, you focus on identifying the causes you can control. Your mind becomes more disciplined, your actions more deliberate, and your relationships more conscious. You start planting seeds of intention, nurturing them with consistent effort and patience, and observing as they grow into tangible results. Every action becomes a deliberate step in shaping the reality you desire. Ultimately, the law of cause and effect teaches that you are never helpless. The world may appear chaotic, unpredictable, or even unfair at times, but underneath it all is a structure of cause and effect, offering a roadmap for mastery. By understanding the consequences of your choices and aligning your actions with awareness, you can transform the flow of your life. Nothing is accidental. Nothing is outside your influence. Every thought you cultivate, every action you take, is a seed that will bear fruit, whether in days, months, or years. The universe responds faithfully to the patterns you create, and in this truth lies both freedom and responsibility, the power to shape your life and the guidance to do so wisely, deliberately, and with clarity. Every action has a reaction. The Hermetic principle of cause and effect is one of the most fundamental laws that governs not only the physical world, but the mental and spiritual realms as well. It teaches that nothing happens by chance, that every event, every situation, every interaction is the result of a preceding cause. In other words, every effect we witness has a source, and every choice we make creates consequences, whether immediate or delayed. From the tiniest action to the largest decision, nothing escapes this law. Understanding it is crucial because it gives insight into the power of personal responsibility and the ability to consciously shape one's own life. The world we experience is not random. It is a mirror reflecting the causes we set into motion, both in thought and action. Consider for a moment the way small actions ripple outward in ways we cannot immediately see. A kind word to a friend may uplift them, changing their mood, their behavior, and even their decisions in ways that reach far beyond the original moment. Conversely, a careless remark or a hasty decision can set off a chain of negative consequences that extend beyond your immediate awareness. Life is woven together in an intricate web of cause and effect, where every strand is connected. This is why Hermetic wisdom emphasizes mindfulness, not only of the obvious actions we take, but also of our thoughts and intentions. Thoughts are causes that give rise to effects, and repeated thought patterns become habits that shape the circumstances of our lives. This principle challenges the common belief that life is driven purely by luck or random events. Many people feel as if they are at the mercy of circumstances, that they are subject to forces beyond their control. Yet the law of cause and effect shows that while we cannot always control the immediate circumstances we face, we can control the causes we set in motion through our thoughts, words, and deeds. The outcomes that appear in our lives are often the result of patterns that were created long before we encounter them. By becoming conscious of the causes we establish today, we can influence the effects we experience tomorrow. This empowers us to act deliberately rather than react unconsciously, recognizing that every choice carries weight. One of the most profound applications of this principle is in understanding personal responsibility. Many struggles in life are not punishments, but natural results of previous actions. When we fail to recognize our role in creating circumstances, we blame external factors, other people, or even fate. Yet Hermetic philosophy teaches that while we cannot always predict exactly how a cause will manifest as an effect, we can always observe that actions produce predictable results over time. The awareness of this truth encourages careful thought, self-discipline, and ethical behavior. It reminds us that we are co-creators of our reality, that our lives are the product of countless causes we have set into motion consciously or unconsciously. The law also explains why certain challenges seem to repeat in our lives. Patterns of behavior, thought, and emotional responses create recurring circumstances, which often feel as though they are imposed upon us. Yet these are simply the effects of causes established in the past. By analyzing our own patterns, we gain insight into the sources of recurring difficulties and can consciously alter the causes to produce new results. Transformation is therefore an intentional process. By changing the causes within ourselves, we create different effects in the outer world. This is why self-awareness and reflection are emphasized in Hermetic teachings. To change the world around us, we must first examine the internal causes that shape it. The principle of cause and effect also extends beyond the individual. Collective actions, societal behaviors, and global events all operate under the same law. The choices of communities, governments, and groups accumulate into consequences that affect countless lives. Understanding this helps us see the interconnectedness of human actions. It encourages us to act with integrity, to consider the broader impact of our decisions, and to contribute positively to the environment we share. Even small, conscious acts of kindness, responsibility, or creativity can ripple outward, creating effects that are far greater than we might imagine. Hermetic philosophy also aligns this law with the concept of karma. Karma, in this sense, is not a moral judgment imposed from outside, but the natural unfolding of consequences arising from actions. The energy we put into the world, through thought, speech, or behavior, returns to us in some form. When we act with care, compassion, and mindfulness, the effects that return to us are aligned with those intentions. When we act out of anger, negligence, or ignorance, the consequences are inevitable, even if delayed or indirect. Recognizing this allows us to take responsibility for the trajectory of our lives and to consciously create causes that lead to desired effects. This principle also teaches patience and awareness. Not all effects are immediate. Some unfold gradually over time, and some may interact with other causes before manifesting. The universe is a complex web, and while we cannot see every thread, we can trust that the law of cause and effect operates continuously and faithfully. By aligning ourselves with conscious intention, maintaining clarity of thought, and acting with integrity, we can ensure that the seeds we plant grow into positive results. It reminds us that even when outcomes seem delayed or hidden, the universe is always responding to the causes we establish. Ultimately, understanding this law transforms the way we live. It inspires mindfulness, responsibility, and deliberate action. It removes the illusion of helplessness and teaches that we are not passive spectators in life but active creators of our destiny. Every thought, every word, every action carries consequences, and by becoming aware of this, we step into the role of conscious architects of our reality. The law of cause and effect is both a guide and a challenge, reminding us that while we cannot control everything that happens to us, we can always control the causes we put into motion. Mastery of this law is mastery of life itself, offering both freedom and power to those who choose to act with awareness, and revealing that the universe responds faithfully to the patterns we create through the intentions and actions we take each day. Masculine and feminine principles. The Hermetic principle of gender is often misunderstood, if taken too literally, because it does not refer merely to biological distinctions or physical sex. Instead, it refers to the presence of masculine and feminine energies within all aspects of life, a universal duality that exists in creation, in nature, in thought, and within each individual. Every force, every process, and every idea contains both masculine and feminine principles, and the key to mastery and creativity lies in recognizing, balancing, and harmonizing these energies. Masculine energy is often associated with activity, assertiveness, logic, and direction, while feminine energy is linked with receptivity, intuition, nurturing, and creation. These are not traits exclusive to men or women. They are universal qualities present in everyone and in everything. Consider the process of creation itself. Nothing manifests in the universe without the interaction of masculine and feminine principles. The masculine principle can be seen as the initiating force, the spark of action, the idea that sets the process into motion. The feminine principle is the receptive force, the nurturing space in which the seed of potential grows, matures, and takes form. Without the masculine spark, nothing would begin. Without the feminine presence, nothing could develop into fullness. Just as day and night, activity and rest, or expansion and contraction work together to sustain life, the interplay of masculine and feminine forces drives the creation and organization of all things. In human experience, this principle is evident in both thought and action. An individual may have brilliant ideas, creative visions, or bold plans, but without the receptive, nurturing aspect to give them structure and allow them to develop, those ideas remain unrealized. Conversely, being open and receptive without taking decisive action can result in passivity or stagnation. True mastery and effectiveness require the integration of both forces, knowing when to act with assertiveness and clarity, and when to step back, observe, and allow insight, intuition, or subtle forces to guide the process. Harmony between these energies produces balance, flow, and the ability to manifest goals and intentions. The principle of gender also extends beyond personal development to relationships and interactions with others. Every person contains both masculine and feminine qualities, and the most successful partnerships, whether in business, friendships, or intimate relationships, reflect a balance and mutual recognition of these energies. Conflicts often arise when one person overemphasizes one polarity while ignoring or suppressing the other, leading to tension, misunderstanding, or imbalance. By cultivating awareness of these energies within oneself and others, it becomes possible to navigate interactions with greater empathy, flexibility, and effectiveness. Recognizing the presence of both masculine and feminine forces allows us to honor differences, leverage complementary strengths, and achieve outcomes that neither force alone could accomplish. In nature, this law is visible in every process of growth and reproduction. Seeds germinate when masculine energy initiates the process and feminine energy nurtures the development into full form. Rivers carve paths through landscapes, winds move and shape terrain. Yet the flow and the shaping forces are balanced by the receptivity and the structure of the land itself. Even at the level of physics, one can see analogous polarities: action and reaction, positive and negative, expansion and contraction. These natural processes illustrate that the principle of gender is universal, operating not just in human behavior but in all creative and dynamic systems. Spiritually and psychologically, understanding the principle of gender provides profound insights into self-mastery. Within each person, the conscious integration of masculine and feminine energies supports inner harmony, creativity, and emotional balance. Overemphasis on masculine traits such as control, logic, or force can lead to rigidity, burnout, or isolation. Overemphasis on feminine traits such as passivity, sensitivity, or indecision can result in uncertainty, dependence, or lack of direction. Awareness and deliberate cultivation of both aspects allow one to channel energy effectively, make wise decisions, and respond to challenges with flexibility and resilience. This internal balance is often reflected externally, as balanced individuals tend to attract circumstances and relationships that mirror their own harmony. The Hermetic teachings also emphasize that gendered forces are necessary for manifestation, just as the masculine and feminine principles must combine to create life. Ideas and intentions require both to manifest into reality. The masculine initiates, the feminine nurtures, the masculine directs, the feminine absorbs and forms. Together, they complete the cycle of creation. Even artistic expression, scientific innovation, or entrepreneurial endeavor relies on this dynamic interplay. Vision without form remains imagination. Form without vision remains mechanical. Only through the conscious combination of both energies can true creativity and accomplishment arise. In daily life, the principle of gender invites reflection and conscious practice. It challenges us to notice where we are out of balance, whether we are overdriven and neglecting receptivity or too passive and neglecting action. It encourages us to cultivate awareness of the energies present in each situation, to respond appropriately, and to harmonize the forces rather than suppress or ignore them. When masculine and feminine energies are balanced, decisions are wiser, actions are more effective, relationships are healthier, and personal growth is more complete. The law of gender reminds us that duality is not conflict but complementarity. Each energy has value, each has a role, and both are essential for life, creation, and fulfillment. Ultimately, mastery of this principle leads to a deeper understanding of life itself. It shows that harmony is not achieved by rejecting one side or favoring the other, but by recognizing the natural duality of existence and consciously integrating the complementary forces that pervade everything. By honoring both masculine and feminine energies, we align ourselves with the rhythms of creation, increase our creative power, and experience a greater sense of wholeness. The law of gender is a universal truth, invisible yet constantly at work, shaping our thoughts, our actions, our relationships, and the very fabric of reality, offering a path to balance, harmony, and the conscious creation of life. By understanding and applying these timeless Hermetic laws, we gain the power to shape our thoughts, actions, and destiny with awareness. Life becomes a conscious journey of balance, growth, and alignment with the universal flow.